I had a very wonderful marriage for about a decade, and unfortunately, like many marriages, it ended. But just as I was getting ready to leave my marriage, and I was contemplating whether I should stay or if I should go, I went into a spiritual ceremony with a shaman. And I came in with this question of, should I save my marriage or should I leave it? And I'll never forget sitting in darkness during that ceremony with just light music happening in the background and sitting in a kind of spiritual channel with this inquiry. And the shaman came over and sat with me at my mat. And the answer to my question came in loud and clear. And the answer was, you're not asking the right question. And just then, my shaman reached out to me and took my hands. And as she put her palms against my palms, I experienced for the first time in my life a sense of oneness. And it was though her soul merged with mine. And I had never felt that depth of intimacy before in my life. And the feeling that came from this sense of oneness was absolute ecstatic bliss. I knew in that moment that I needed to discover what it was to love and to be loved. And that although I had many years of research and study around this topic, I didn't have enough life experience in it. So from that ceremony forward, as my marriage dissolved, as it needed to, I devoted myself and my life to understanding this question of intimacy. And because I'm an academic at heart, I decided to use myself as a sort of field research subject and to frame my sex and love life as field study. And I'll be honest with you, in the beginning, it involved a lot of potato chips and Netflix as I was healing from my divorce. But eventually, I got going and I began to create connections with people, and I began to date, and I began to take lovers. And I allowed myself to really experiment with every permutation of relationship and sexuality that I felt drawn toward. And this went on for a couple of years, and I took copious notes. And what I discovered happened one day during a moment of clarity. I was filling out a form at my doctor's office, just a routine piece of paperwork. But on that paper, it asked me for an emergency contact. And I just stared at that line in total blankness, because where I used to write in my husband's name, I really had no one to write. And I realized as my tears just fell onto that paper, that my life was full of lovers, but empty of love. And it was then that I realized my field research had taken a wrong turn. And really, just out of desperation, I began to study sacred sexuality. I studied Tantra, energy, polarity, Taoism, you name it, anything that I could get my hands on, because I felt that there must be a better way of relating and a better way of loving.